What's good, meaningful movers? Welcome back to Moving With Me in the podcast, where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. Today's episode is going to be one that takes us back and then hopefully find some inspiration in where we are today, whether it fuels your path or moves you to take another path that has been set for you. But you know how we do it here. We need to set that theme. So let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is premeditate. Isn't it always interesting how we instinctively plan our future? What are we going to do when we grow up? Where are we going to live? How are we going to get that promotion? How will we pay off those loans? The list goes on. But what happens when that's not what you are meant to do or be? What if you are so stubborn that something has to be injected into your life as a catalyst for you to tap into your potential? And that's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guest? And there's no one better to do that than herself, Farah. Why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you are going to share with us today?
Hey, Krystal. Really happy to be here. Thank you for having me on your show. So for your listeners, my name is Farah. I live out in Dubai. I was born in London. I grew up in India. I'm a Parsi by faith. For those that know, Parsis, we're Persians, so the religion is Zoroastrian. Someone asked me the other day, we're in the middle of Ramadan in Dubai where I live, and they're like, "You're not Muslim?" I'm like, "No, I'm Zoroastrian," and they hadn't heard of it. Once upon a time, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, and then by accident, as you were talking about planning, that was my plan, but that's not quite, I think, what I was meant to do. I ended up as a trainee in banking, and I've built my career in banking for the last 30 years. So I kind of think that's where I was meant to be. Here I am. I have recently written and published a book, and that brings me on the journey where I get to meet you and talk to your listeners.
Awesome. I'm so interested about this journey between going to be a doctor, but then you said the universe has some other plans for you. So how did that kind of get started for you?
So it goes back to the born in London, grew up in India. And so I carry a British passport. And then my mother had taken me to India to see my maternal grandmother for a holiday. And then we ended up staying there because my mother decided to stay. She was planning to separate from my father. So I grew up in North India, went to school there, had to find a way to be. I'd come from London, a very different experience up until that point. I was 4 years old, didn't speak the language, didn't really look the way everyone else did, and had to find a way to fit into that society. And it was a gradual process. And in India, I'm sure other countries are the same. The real professions that your parent, the Indian parent, aspires for you to become is either a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. And back in the day, there wasn't any other choice. No one knew data. No one knew any other options. Like the career choices that are available today did not exist back then. So I think it must have been conditioning as well. And also, I think part of my personality is like I'm nurturing. I like to take care of people. So I thought being a doctor would fulfill the taking care and the financial aspects. I got to sort of university stage, took biology as one would do, physics and chemistry, and studied that. And then when I was 18, it became a choice of either staying in India, but then I'd have to relinquish my British passport, or leaving India to go back to the UK. So I chose to go back. But the UK at the time was giving grants and concessions to people who were tax-paying. My parents hadn't been in the country. My mom had been in India. My father had left and gone on to America. So I wasn't eligible. And my mom couldn't really afford to pay the fees for me to go to medical college. So I started working, trying to find a route back into medicine, but the doors weren't opening. And then through the connection, through applying for work, like I worked in different shoe shops, I worked in admin of an office, I worked as a cashier, I did little odd jobs. And then through friends of friends and contacts, I was introduced at a bank as a trainee. So literally filing, making the coffee, that kind of thing in London. And banking it was. Here I am, 30 years later, still in banking, but just different countries, different styles, different parts of the business, but just growing and acquiring knowledge through the industry.
Well, that's good. I mean, to start where you did start, you really got the full spectrum of banking. I mean, I know for some folks who kind of get from a university and they kind of skip those different levels, they don't appreciate the value.
It's ground up, right? And it's MS-DOS. We were in MS-DOS world.
I remember
typing in transactions. So it was all, printing out, reconciling. It was real old school stuff. But it gives you such a solid grounding, I feel. As you were saying, you don't get to skip. You have to get through each level to progress. But even today, if I get asked a question, even if I don't remember the details, I will know most of the information that's required just through having absorbed it over the years.
I believe it. So you mentioned your mother briefly just there. I mean, it caught me from a space of relationship because she shared with you that she was leaving your father.
I think it was less said and more unsaid at that time. It was just that we stayed in India.
Okay.
I think she herself was working it out. She was a young mom. She had me when she was 22, so she was very young at the time. She had heard that my father had been unfaithful to her, and so she decided to stay on in India, not go back. And I think she herself wasn't quite sure of what, the future would hold. So I don't think it was ever expressly said. It was just the passage of time, and Dad wasn't around, and, it wasn't the time when you were as hyper-connected as you are today. It was still, when you would get landlines and 3-minute trunk calls and, the operator when you take this call kind of thing. So I think it was more just the circumstances and how it sort of worked out, but it was never a sit-down conversation that things are about to change kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Your book does revolve around families, mothers and daughters. So I guess tell me how, you said it starts with your own mother, and there's some difficulty from a grief/resilience perspective of that. Tell me a little bit about that.
So my mom was this, amazing personality. She's a child of India post-independence. So that whole generation is very filled with this love of life and they want to live life large. She was never one to be conventional in how she was. She was very, living life on her own terms and being unconventional in a very small town in India, 60, 70 years ago. It was not the norm to leave your husband. It was not the norm for young ladies to become lawyers, walk around in trousers, smoke cigarettes, and then eventually started dating the gentleman who became my stepfather, who was a bit younger than her, and a very eligible bachelor. And it was the amalgamation of all of these little sort of things that you in isolation would think they're not a big deal, but put together, the package was this very large personality. And she was the mainstay for me because my father became absent through, the separation. He wasn't as involved. He wasn't around. He wasn't present, whether physically or emotionally or financially. So mom was my one parent, if you like. By this time I had married, I had children, and I was living in Dubai. And there was an incident where my mom was the victim of a gun crime. So it was a petty gun crime in my hometown, and my mother was shot. And then she subsequently passed away because of the internal bleeding from the wounds. She survived for 25 days, and we thought she would get better. And given the strength of her personality, I really did believe she would pull through it, but she didn't in the end. And that sort of grief, if you like, or that loss, or the way in which you lose her is something that is a turning point. You have to stop and take stock of who you are. You use the word resilience, and resilience for me is definitely a mental construct rather than a physical construct, right? It's the ability to find that strength in your mind, to harness the mind, to move through whatever challenging situation you find yourself in. So grief, yes, mother and daughter relationship is at the heart of the story, but it's also about how do you work through it? How do you move through it? How do you find your way through it to come out the other side, to be able to maybe talk about it without the emotional charge to it, maybe to even convey a sense of hope to someone else who might encounter, grief in a different format, but grief is universal, right? Finding the tools to deal with grief is universal. It sort of cuts across all cultures and divides and geographies. It's not privy to any one person. So I think that is the hope, that people will read the story, will take that nugget of information or hope or whatever resonates with them and carry it through with them, and hopefully see them on their journeys and help them move through whatever they're encountering.
That's good. I like how you put that. That is what my brand has always been about, is emotional resilience, because it's true. We're going to experience a lot of loss. How we go about that and having that mental fortitude to react and kind of turn that pain into purpose has been just something of positivity. It's been a mission for me. I'm so happy to hear you explain it so eloquently. You did phenomenal.
Thank you.
In the midst of this, right, you also mentioned fitting in and trying to belong, right? Because you were between London. I don't even know. I remember us talking, but I completely missed that. Like, I was like, what? London? Like, when you were just introducing yourself, I was like, oh my God. But London and then Dubai, and then you were saying how you didn't look the same. And I guess, and I did this like 23andMe DNA test, and I pretty much had it nailed on what I thought it would be. I'm, let's just say 75% Nigerian and 25% Irish. I knew that. But if I was to go to either one of those places, I would not, you know what I'm saying? I would not look like any of that.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me about that experience for you.
I think as a child, it was much harder. Also because when I arrived in India, I didn't speak the language. And when I said in the intro, I'm Parsi, I'm Zoroastrian, we're Persian, we look a little bit different to, say, someone who's from India. We've been in India for centuries. We took asylum, but the roots of our heritage and our facial features, and we don't allow as much intermarriage. So our features have remained, if you like, true to form. So when I first arrived, it was disconcerting because in my head, I'd gone for a holiday, then we're staying there. Then my mom put me into this convent, which was kind of the equivalent of private education in India. The nuns used to run the private education there. Oh, the fathers were the boys, and they were Irish or Scottish, and the same ones were taught my mom. It was sheltered, but you were still out in the world, and you were still socializing and mixing. And because of mom and her choices, there was a lot of that person's daughter, or, we were under the spotlight in a way, not because I had done anything, but because of the life we were leading. And she would rock up at my parent-teacher meetings, in her lawyer's outfit with her trousers and her cigarette out. And I'd be like, can you just be a little low-key? Could you just wear traditional attire for the day? And she would you can't stop people talking. And she would just carry on doing whatever she wanted to do. And today, for me, I think that was the biggest blessing, to have her model that ability to live life unapologetically. So we go around half our life apologizing for everything. I'm sorry, sorry, and I didn't mean to, and if you don't mind. And I just think our language is so apologetic the whole time, but she was not apologizing for any of it. And from London to India was the bigger transition, but I was a child, so I think it was, you absorb it and you get over it a bit quicker. And then aged 18, I go back to London, and now I'm fresh off the boat from India, and I have to find my way around London as a young person with no real compass, nothing to steer me in the right direction there. So I found my feet there, ran into a whole lot of different situations that I had to find my way out of as well. And then eventually made a conscious choice to come to Dubai. So Dubai was a very conscious choice. Again, it's a transition, and it's an integration into a different society and a different way of being. And you have to assimilate and absorb the cultures of the location. But then I think over time, I've got to the point where I'm super comfortable in who I am. And my body is my home. If I'm comfortable in myself, I'm fairly comfortable wherever I am today, whichever country, whichever culture you throw me into. I can, hold my own and not get destabilized so much. But I think that's the sort of culmination of so many years of absorbing different cultures, traveling different cultures, finding my way, learning to be true to myself while still integrating with different people, but holding true to my values or whatever I believe to be integral to who I am. I think that's kind of, you would be who you are, whether it's Nigeria or Ireland.
Yeah. Did you have your daughter in Dubai or in
London?
My
daughter was born in London. She came to Dubai age 6 months, and my son was born in Dubai.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
They didn't have to do too much of the straddling.
Yeah, true. But it's an interesting, this generation, and, we're expats, and there's a whole community of expats here, and all these kids will struggle with the sense of identity because Dubai has been home, but they don't belong. We don't belong in Dubai, right? We're still visitors to the country. They carry British passports and they've been to London every year. I come from India and I take them back to India and they feel at home there. So there is, again, that sense of where do I belong? Where are my roots? Where's home? That's a conversation and a dialogue for this generation as well. But hopefully, as the world has got more interconnected and it's easier to, with COVID, the whole digital nomad, sort of went quite large. People are now more used to the idea of living in places not necessarily where you originate from, or living in foreign lands, but making it your home, right? And not feeling the same sense of the need to be rooted in a land, I feel. This generation handles it a bit different, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. That's interesting that you said that because with identity, the Black community, it's more about skin tone than it is the one you described, which is more about facial features.
To be fair, skin tone is a big thing in India as well, right? Fairness.
Yes, I did know that.
Is valued, but again, for me, yes, my skin tone might be a bit lighter, but my features are a bit different. I spoke different. I arrived speaking only English, so there was so many different factors that contributed to the otherness. It wasn't just one or the other, but I completely appreciate where you're coming from.
Yeah, I appreciate yours. That is something new. The more information we get out there about this, the greater the chances that we can close this gap and hopefully eliminate it, because it just doesn't matter to me and to many other folks that I talk about. It just doesn't matter. That is just not that serious. And I just can't believe for other people who make it such an issue. I have yet to hear anyone give a plausible explanation about it. And it sounds silly, even to the point where if you ask them to articulate it, they're almost embarrassed to.
I don't think there is a plausible explanation. I think it's just conditioning. I think it's prejudice.
Yes.
I think it's lack of awareness. It's education. I think it's just a mindset, the way it's been developed over the years. And it just needs to change from, again, the grassroots up, right? If you teach kids that we're all people, that's what they're going to learn and that's how they're going to be. And I think that is what I love that Dubai has given me and my children, because there's so much diversity. Be it nationality, be it cultures, be it skin tone, be it features, be it language. They're very used to being surrounded by people of all walks of life and all cultures. So there isn't that demarcation of us and them ever, because we're all them in a way, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that's a really great tool, or just a really great way and a value that was given to them growing up in this multicultural society that we live in.
Yeah, fantastic. So when we're talking about your book, we're going to keep on going with your book because I really like this. You talked briefly just about the synopsis. How did you go about healing in your book without giving it away, right? Because we want people to pick this up and read it and really get engaged, right? And involved with the story, but also just what kind of tools you give within that you experienced.
For me, there were 3 fundamentals for my healing journey. One was definitely writing and journaling. There was a lot of journaling involved, which then kind of helped me shape the story and remember incidents from the time, but also helped me process my grief and access my grief. I didn't have the vocabulary. It was probably locked away. And when I started first writing, and I was working with a grief counselor, and she was like, Farah, you need to access your grief. And I'm like, well, I'm writing it, aren't I, kind of thing. And she would be like, no, you need to go in deeper. And so there were layers and layers to chip away at, because yes, it was the loss of your mother. It was the way I lost her. She was my only parent. She was my, the witness to my life. There was so much unresolved issues around the divorce, my father's role, the choices she had made, which as an adult, you can completely get, the choices she made. You may not agree with the choice, but I can get, the way she thought at the time. So journaling, writing, processing the grief. And I do believe there's no shortcut to it. You have to go through it to come out the other side. You have to get to grips with what you're feeling and be able to articulate it and look it in the face and be okay with not being okay for a period of time. So definitely one that I would advocate. The second sort of tool that I used was yoga for me. It was a physical practice. Now, I do yoga. Somebody might prefer Pilates or swimming or hiking or walking, but it was more for me a physical way to calm my mind because I couldn't get my mind to switch off. Like if I went for a lady's beauty treatment, the minute I'm lying there, not being busy and not being active, the thoughts kick in and the tears would start streaming. So yoga was a way for me to physically meditate, if you like. It's a moving meditation for me. So it would strengthen my body, but also help me harness my mind because you're so focused on where you're at in that moment that you don't have the luxury of letting your thoughts sort of go to different places. So it really helped center me. And then the third one that I used a lot was baking, cooking. My family's foodies. I've always loved cooking food. But when my daughter was born, I started baking and started as a hobby. Then I was supplying friends. I was, dreaming of opening cafes, but it was creative. I was working with my hands and creating. I would come home and I would think, okay, what can I create? Not what I could eat necessarily, but what can I make? And it was a combination of, again, it's your mind is centered on what you're measuring. You're, checking the temperature. You're making sure it all goes in. So for a minute, again, you're in that meditative state. And then something comes out that you've created that smells super yum. And you're able to offer it to friends or family. And the joy of sharing and the joy of their receiving or their comments, it sort of fills you back up a little bit. And again, it was baking for me. It could be art or drawing or gardening or any other creative pastime that fills you with joy. I think it's that little bit of joy in that gray period of time that sort of then builds up.
Absolutely. Just the regenerative or the rejuvenative qualities of all those activities were just amazing. These are simple acts, but they meant something because they helped. Like, I just went to get a massage. I remember getting ready, and right before this lady came in, this thought of my own mom popped up in my head. It's a funny thought. And I just was cracking up laughing. And I'm like, I'm in this place with all this Zen music and these essential oils, and I'm dying laughing, And at that moment, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I need to back up for a second because I'm supposed to be here to relax. Laughing is a relaxing thing for me. But as soon as you said that, I was like, this totally makes sense. Now, I want to talk about this last tidbit here because I'm just a super fan of this phrase, thought leadership. I am in love with that. Tell me how thought leadership applies here.
I think everything for me, I believe, starts in the mind. It could be a dream. It could be an idea. It's a thought. It's how you develop it and take it further. So say if I wanted to write the book, it started out with me just penning my thoughts. It's my mind that will take me on that journey of where I want to develop that thought to, right? So when you're talking about your data and analytics, you're giving them the ideas to fuel future developments for their company. Or you've seen this piece of data, how can I take it and use it to grow something, right? It's about growth, right? It's about showing someone the way. Or if I go to, say, a literature festival and I hear all these great speakers and they say something that resonates with me that I then take back and either apply in my life or research on how I could use that particular idea to do something that I want to do. For me, that's thought leadership. They've given me a thought that is leading me on a journey to discover something new or to, find a different route to take something and do different with it. So for me, our minds have to be back to resilience, right? Your resilience starts in your mind. So you have to develop the mind, and your mind you can only develop with new ideas, new information, research, people talking to you, different ideas, different concepts, because if you don't keep that mind open, it's going to get dusty and there's going to be no fresh energy coming through for you to learn different things. I'm curious about the world. I'm curious about people. I'm curious about someone says something. If I don't know, I will immediately turn to check it out and, what does that mean? Or how do I make this happen? Or how do I do something different? Like, I'm not a great photographer, but I have a phone that takes decent photographs. So I was like, okay, I want to go on a course to learn how to take better photographs. So I took myself off to learn it, and I learned something new, and now I can apply it. It's about the desire to stay connected, interested in the world, curious about the world, and to be open to different thoughts and different ideas that will feed yourself and your own growth.
Oh, man. I like that too. You've been dropping just, like I say, wiles of wisdom, some gems here and there. And I really appreciate your story, just everything that you've learned from that, and then what you're giving back to others. So do you have any golden nuggets that you'd kind of like to add some ketchup just to recap for us?
Invest in yourself. I think invest time in yourself, right? Find the time to slow down. We're so hyper connected, sort of immersed in whatever's going on out there, but check in with yourself from time to time as to how you're going on and make the time for that. Even if it's a little bit uncomfortable to begin with, you'll get easier as you go along with it. I would find a physical activity that you enjoy and commit to it. And once a week, twice a week, however long, however much time you can do, but do something physical just to move your body, to move the energy in your body, but also it gives you back so much joy. And the third thing I would say is find something that brings you joy, whatever it is, however small or big, creative pursuit that you enjoy, do and make the time for that as well, because we're so busy, I feel, in our lives, giving out, looking after people, being at a job. It's often we forget to fill our own cup, and you can't give anyone from an empty cup, really. So find ways to fill your own cup, look after yourself, and it'll all work out.
All about stimulation. Pretty cool. Well, that's the episode today. My mom would always say this idiom: if it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. Quoted by many African American authors and blues singers. Interesting is that she said it in a way that was humorous. She has that way about her, to always make light of her frustrations with a somber saying such as this, only to crack a smile and bring on a tickled laugh between us. I know we look at our childhood, whether traumatic or not, and we do our best to do better, be better, or just plain old be good. Of course, we set a plan to make sure that happens, either to remove ourselves from a toxic environment, only to enter another one without us knowing. The outcome may not have been the plan that you intended or the route you anticipated to take, but you are getting there if you aren't there now. Remember, all moves have meaning, even the tough ones. That's why I appreciate Farah sharing her personal story and bringing thought leadership and resilience to the forefront. I find it inspiring to find yourself in the midst of you doing your darndest to fit in with the crowd, even if you have been chasing a self-proclaimed path and finally accepted your purpose with power. I love to hear about the moment of clarity and what you are doing with it. I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Farah, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources, or reach out to you.
Thanks, Krystal. Your listeners can come on Instagram, farah.press. Would love to interact with them, for them to see the journey. They can engage with us. The website is farahpress.com, where there are more resources and pictures. And the book is readily available online, Amazon or any online retailer of choice. And through the website, there's a link where they can click on directly and purchase it as well. Would love to hear their thoughts.
Awesome. Yes, folks. Reviews. I'll make sure to include all of Farah's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning, the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My YouTube channel is up. Kindly run over there and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving With Meaning, the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.